Welcome to Bill's Aviation Podcast, where your stories are our stories. I'm a general aviation pilot, aviation writer, airplane builder, avionics developer, test pilot, and general screw-up. All stories feature Joe and his merry band of miscreants. The purpose of these stories is to educate and entertain pilots. If you have a story you'd like to share anonymously, please contact me. Today's story is titled Cold and Really Hot, Another Adventure with Rental Planes. Joe and his wife Karen rented a Piper Cherokee 140. This was an early Cherokee built before Piper standardized the instrument panel, control layout, and added a throttle quadrant. The panel in this early Cherokee was one of the last panels that looked like it was designed with a shotgun. Joe and Karen had rented the nicely maintained Cherokee and were looking forward to a smooth flight to the North Country to visit family. It was the Saturday before Thanksgiving and the temperatures were already below freezing, especially at altitude. The little 140 was ticking off the miles and making great time. A small tailwind helped push them along. All looked good. At some point, the sun went behind a cloud and Karen decided she was cold. She knew enough not to mess with any of the knobs, controls, switches, or whatever over on Joe's side of the cockpit. But as Joe was busy talking with ATC, she decided to just pull out the red knob on her side of the panel to get some heat. After all, red is the color for heat, just like on her car. Immediately after pulling out the red knob strategically placed in front of her and not anywhere near the pilot, things got really quiet. But boy did that cockpit ever get warm. It turns out that the early Cherokee sported a panel layout that was not what we considered standard. You see, Piper's panel designer saw fit to put the mixture control directly in front of the passenger rather than group it with the rest of the engine controls as later done and became standard. This time Karen did not start yelling, but immediately started crying and demanding that Joe get her on the ground ASAP. I guess she hadn't figured out that without the engine running, they would be on the ground shortly. Joe, being a good pilot, immediately went through the emergency checklist, established best glide speed, then started going through the controls. Fuel pump on, mixture full rich, vroom! Lycoming 0320 started right up. The crying in the right seat continued until they touched down at their home airport. See, Joe figured it was best if he turned around and went home, as Karen was no longer in the mood to visit relatives. Lesson learned: when taking a passenger up in a plane they are not familiar with, instruct them with what they can and cannot touch. Had Karen pulled the mixture at the wrong time, the results would have been much worse than some shed tears. Or, as my friend Bob said, next time, bring some zip ties and secure your passenger's hands to the seat bottom before each flight. Thank you for listening, and if you enjoyed what you heard, please hit the like button, subscribe, and if you really liked what you heard, please help support the channel and become a Patreon. Part of each donation will go to aviation safety and aviation youth programs.